When Lincoln Riley was hired to be the head coach of USC, there was hope that he would be able to turn the Trojans football program into a powerhouse due to his recruiting ability and his ability to churn out great quarterbacks. While things got off to a great start going 11-3 in his first season, the program has seemingly collapsed, getting worse and worse each year. Now, fans are calling for Lincoln Riley's head as the Trojans may miss a bowl game. This is why Lincoln Riley has failed at USC. But before we get into this, if you enjoy college football content like this, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Also, let me know if you think Lincoln Riley should be fired, and if so, who should replace him in the comment section below. Following a 1-1 start for the Trojans back in 2021, head coach Clay Helton would be relieved of his duties, although the Trojans were coming off a 5-1 season in 2020, where they played for the Pac-12 title and finished ranked 21st in the AP poll. Helton served as the interim head coach for the Trojans in 2013 and 2015, both when Lane Kiffin was fired, though Ed Ogeron would be their first interim head coach before resigning, and when Steve Sarkisian was fired. After a 5-4 record as head coach in 2015 that saw the Trojans lose in the Holiday Bowl, they would go 10-3 in 2016 and win the Rose Bowl, and won the Pac-12 title in 2017 with an 11-3 record, but that would be followed with a 5-7 season in 2018 and an 8-5 season in 2019. Even back when Helton had the interim tag removed, many were shocked by athletic director Pat Hayden's decision. Their 2018 season would be their first losing season since 2000, and many felt Helton was never going to restore USC as a consistent national power. Everyone liked Clay Helton, and it was why he was kept around for so long, and early success helped although they had brutal losses to Alabama 52-6, Stanford 27-10, Notre Dame 49-14, and Ohio State 24-7 during those 2 years. After his 5-7 season, athletic director Lynn Swann gave Helton an extension saying Helton has shown that he could lead our team with integrity and stability, and he has the ability to win conference and national championships. Swann would be fired that following September and replaced by Mike Bohn, with 1 game remaining in 2019. Ultimately, Bohn wanted more time to evaluate what he was inheriting, so when it came to making a change, he was better equipped to find the right coach. He also wasn't going to fire a coach after a 5-1 season during the crazy period of 2020. With a blowout loss to Stanford at home in the second game of the season, Bohn had the opportunity. ESPN's Kyle Bonagera wrote back in September of 2021, "The timing helps on 2 fronts. First, it will allow USC fans to feel optimistic again. Savior speculation can be fun. Second, it gives Bohn, who undoubtedly has had candidates in mind since he arrived, time to go about the search in a methodical fashion." Although no coach had found major success at USC since Pete Carroll, the fans and schools still felt that winning big was a major expectation and that they should be competing for national titles. Names linked to the job to replace Helton included Penn State's James Franklin, Cincinnati's Luke Fickell, Oregon's Mario Cristobal, former Washington head coach Chris Peterson, and former Oklahoma head coach Bob Stoops. Instead, in a shocking turn of events, would actually be Stoops' replacement at Oklahoma, who would be named the school's next head coach, Lincoln Riley. Lincoln Riley was an unexpected get for USC, as he was rolling while at Oklahoma, leading the Sooners to 4 straight Big 12 titles and 3 straight college football playoff appearances. As head coach, he had never lost more than 2 games in a season, having 4 double-digit winning seasons, and becoming known as a quarterback whisperer, developing guys like Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, and Jalen Hurts. Spencer Rattler looked like he was going to be a future first overall pick, before being replaced by Caleb Williams, who looked like a generational talent. Yet Riley's teams were never known for their defenses, and they struggled to win the big games outside the Big 12. Bonagera wrote that this was a home run hire for the Trojans, and that the Trojans were ready to win at all costs. He went on to write, "The fact that Riley took the job signals, in part, that USC is still one of the best jobs out there. The name brand and infrastructure have taken plenty of hits. USC's position on the West Coast, in a conference that's begging for a team to truly dominate it, make the potential sky high. It's why the immediate expectations are a Pac-12 title at the very least, and certainly a college football playoff berth sooner rather than later." He brought with him Caleb Williams via the transfer portal, and 5-star quarterback Malachi Nelson, who flipped from Oklahoma to USC. Along with Williams, Mario Williams and Latrell McCutcheon both followed Riley to USC from the Sooners. They also added wide receiver Jordan Addison and Brendan Rice, as well as running backs Travis Dye and Austin Jones, among others, finishing with the best transfer recruiting class in the nation. Riley told the media at his opening press conference, "We plan on building the best roster in the country. Inside that locker room, the best culture in the country. The Coliseum is going to be full. This will be the mecca of college football. In year one under Riley, USC was expected to win 9 or 10 games and compete for the Pac-12 title. They would enter the season ranked number 14 in the preseason polls and rose as high as number 4 in the rankings before losing to Utah for the second time during the season 47-24 during the Pac-12 title game. Their previous loss to Utah was a 43-42 game at Utah. They finished the regular season 11-2 and just missed out on making the college football playoff. Caleb Williams would win the Heisman Trophy throwing for 4,537 yards, 42 touchdowns and only 5 interceptions, while Jordan Addison finished with 875 receiving yards and 8 touchdowns. Travis Dye and Austin Jones were a dangerous 1-2 punch in the running game as the Trojans averaged 171.1 yards per game on the ground. They would earn a spot in the Cotton Bowl where they took on Tulane, a team they were expected to crush, but instead fell to the Green Wave 46-45 to end the season 11-3 with back-to-back losses. But hope was back in the program. Lincoln Riley led them to their most successful season since the mid-2010s, and Caleb Williams would be returning for a second year. USC was projected to go 11-1 in 2023 with their lone loss coming on the road to Oregon according to College Football News. Instead, the season would be somewhat of a disaster. Although the Trojans came into the season as the 6th ranked team in the preseason polls, by the time November came around, they would be out of the rankings. They would lose 5 of their final 6 regular season games, which seemed impossible at the beginning of the season. Riley told the media following their UCLA loss, "I've clearly not done a good enough job in the second half of the season to get this team ready. I've got to do a much better job." The Trojans displayed poor defensive play, sloppy mistakes, and an inconsistent offense that couldn't even be saved by the reigning Heisman winner Caleb Williams. Although they started the season off 6-0, they would finish 7-5 as their defense was one of the worst in the nation, leading to the firing of Alex Grinch. Some semblance of hope would come at the end of the season as the Trojans upset number 16 Louisville 42-28 behind Miller Moss's 372 passing yards, 6 touchdowns and 1 interception in the bowl game. The Trojans would see their rushing numbers drop to 134.6 yards per game between Marshawn Lloyd and Austin Jones, and Williams only threw for 3,633 yards, 30 touchdowns and 5 interceptions, but also had 11 rushing touchdowns on the ground. The LA Times' Bill Plaschke ripped into Riley during the season saying, "Yet on a brutal Saturday night, their $10 million a year coach's promise of a championship culture once again crumbled like a cheap suit. Riley failed the moment. He failed the Trojans. He failed the Coliseum. He is failing this season." After 2 full seasons, Riley was 19-8, while Clay Helton was 21-6 with a Rose Bowl and Pac-12 title. The 2024 season felt like a do-or-die season for Lincoln Riley and the Trojans as they ushered in a new era. Miller Moss replaced Caleb Williams, who went first overall in the 2024 NFL Draft to the Chicago Bears, and the Trojans joined the Big Ten Conference. Heading into the season, the Trojans were given an over-under win total of 7, were projected to finish 6th in the Big Ten according to Phil Steele. The Trojans entered the season ranked as the 23rd team in the preseason AP poll, and would get off to an amazing start, upsetting number 13 LSU 27-20, and moved up to 13th in the following AP poll. They would dismantle Utah State 48-0, and rolled into the Big House to take on number 18 Michigan. Although the Trojans knew Michigan was not going to be passing the ball, they still couldn't stop the Wolverines' run game, allowing 290 rushing yards throughout the game. The Wolverines only attempted 12 passes, completing 7 of them for 32 yards, and beat the Trojans 27-24. USC got run over by a freight train they knew was coming, but just couldn't get out of the way. They even had a bye week to prepare, knowing Michigan was not going to throw the ball much. It was sort of sad. They then went into halftime down 21-10 at home to my Wisconsin Badgers, where Wisconsin collapsed in the second half and the Trojans pulled out the win 38-21. They then traveled to Minnesota, where they lost to the Gophers 24-17, followed by a 33-30 loss to Penn State and a 29-28 loss to Maryland on the road. They were sitting at 3-4 with their 4 losses coming by a combined 14 total points. They were even up by 14 against both the Nittany Lions and Terrapins at half in those games. Riley told the media after the Maryland loss, "It just simply hasn't been enough. Just like last week, I own it. It's my responsibility. I have to get this team to play better at the end of the games. And I've obviously not done a good enough job of that clearly. It's a tough one to swallow." They would get back to their winning ways, beating Rutgers during an 11 p.m. Eastern Friday night kickoff, would lose to Washington on the road this past weekend, entering their bye 4-5. In his post-game press conference, Riley said, "I don't handle losing very well. It hasn't happened very much in my career. That part of it is unacceptable. It's not like we're getting our asses kicked. It's not like I go back to the drawing board like, God, we're doing this terrible, and people are wearing us out, or this or that. It's not that. They blew their 5th fourth quarter lead and dropped to 2-5 in Big Ten Conference play. While Miller Moss has struggled with turnovers in recent weeks, throwing 3 interceptions against Washington and 9 on the season so far, Riley does not plan on making a quarterback change. Young Bowl eligible, the Trojans need to win 2 of their 3 remaining games against Nebraska, UCLA, who are both fighting for bowl eligibility at the moment, and number 10 Notre Dame. Riley could repeat what Helton did in his 3rd season as head coach, finishing 5-7 or worse if they lose out, or an 8, which has led to talks about Lincoln Riley being on the hot seat. When Riley was hired by USC in 2022, he signed a 10-year contract worth $110 million. USC is a private university, so Riley's buyout is not public knowledge. However, 24/7 Sports estimated that the Trojans coach stands to make $88 million should he be fired. Trojans Wire Matt Zemek wrote earlier this week, USC fans rightly have had enough with Riley. They can't stand this, and they shouldn't. There's no reason for USC to be like this. Yet this is the harsh and cold truth. Riley joins Clay Helton and Paul Hackett as the most recent USC coaches to lose 5 games or more in back-to-back seasons. With how large the buyout is, no matter what happens, Lincoln Riley will probably be back next year, though his seat can't feel all that comfortable right now, and won't throughout the offseason, going 12-12 in the last 24 games. Things don't get much easier next year either for USC, with the new Big Ten reality as they travel on the road to take on Illinois, Nebraska, and Oregon, while hosting Iowa, Michigan, and Michigan State in conference play and traveling to South Bend to take on Notre Dame in their annual rivalry. Things get even worse as there are rumors Julian Lewis may flip his commitment, and Southern California recruits and coaches aren't super happy with Lincoln Riley at the moment. Riley has not prioritized Southern California recruits, choosing to recruit nationwide more and letting the other programs come in and take the Southern California recruits. Between the classes of 2023 to 2025, Riley has not won many battles for top talent in California. Riley has only gotten 7 of the 60 top California prospects. This is seemingly because Riley uses Southern California as a backup plan if their national recruits don't work out. Riley only visited Powerhouse Mater Dei once this spring, a school that produced Todd Maravich, Matt Leinart, and Matt Barkley and JT Daniels for USC, and John Huerta, Holt Brennan, and Bryce Young. This led to Matt Leinart tweeting out, Pete Carroll built a fence around Southern California, and coaches knew they'd never have a shot of getting anyone during that time. If this is true, this would be unfortunate as there is still a ton of elite talent, not only at Mater Dei, but all over SoCal. None of the top 13 Mater Dei prospects in the classes of 2025 and 2026 have committed to Southern California. Instead, they are usually going to Oregon. Rival coaches should not be visiting powerhouse programs in your backyard more than you. If Riley wants to find success at USC, he needs to refocus his recruiting to Southern California and put a fence around it. Things are not great at USC right now, and I don't know if they're going to get much better fast. But what do you think? Why has Lincoln Riley failed at USC, and can he right the ship? Let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out one of my other videos YouTube thinks you will love right here. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, remember to embrace the grind.